Hi everyone, I am going to help you set up your paper for the value layers exercise. You're going to start with, excuse me, a 9 by 12 piece of paper, and you're going to measure 9 by 9 and then cut it out. If you don't have access to scissors, you can watch my video on how to cut a piece of paper without scissors. So do not get rid of this. Hold on to this piece of paper for later because we're going to use it. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to measure out a 1/2 inch border on your whole piece, each side. So I'm measuring at the top and bottom of each side so that I have something for my ruler to connect to. You're going to do this really lightly in pencil. Okay, so I have that. The next thing you're going to do is, hopefully you have already talked to your teacher about your silhouettes, but here is my sketchbook page. So values at the top, the definition of value, and then I have my different types, my different techniques for creating value, and then I have my silhouettes at the bottom. I chose, excuse me, I chose the bird silhouette. You want to make sure that your silhouette is simple, it's going to be easy to cut out, and it's easily recognizable as a silhouette, right? You're not going to do a soccer ball because really that's just going to look like a circle. Okay, on that little piece of paper, you're going to draw your silhouette. And I said it should be about 3 by 3, right? So if this is a 9-inch piece of paper, I can cut that into 3. So that's about how big you want your silhouette. You don't want it to be too small. I'm going to carefully cut this out. I always think it's easier to use the inside of the scissors. I think you have more control over it. Once you have your silhouette cut out, on the lesson, I have written down the directions for how many times you're going to trace it for each layer. Okay, so that first layer is 5 to 7 times. And keep in mind, it all doesn't have to be on the page. You can have your image bleed off of the page. So you're going to lightly trace it and keep changing the orientation of your shape as you move it around the paper. I'm going to pause my recording so that I can do my tracing, and then I'll unpause it in a minute. So I've traced out my bird 7 times, and I chose to do it 7 because my little bird is on the smaller side, so I want to fill up more of the page. Now you're going to choose your shading technique: hatching, cross hatching, stippling, modeling or blended shading, or scumbling. And you're going to choose one of those, and you're going to add value to all 7, 5 to 7 of your first layer in the lightest layer that you can. So I'm going to choose stippling. I'm going to get this one out of the way first. And I want this to be, you want to have drawn your birds pretty lightly because we don't want to see that outside edge of them. So I'm just going to erase it. And now I'm going to stipple, but inside that area. And you want to make sure that when you are stippling with your pencil, you're you don't have to lift up your pencil. It's not going to make a lot of noise. You're not going to jam your pencil down on the table. I'm barely lifting my pencil up off the paper. It allows you to do more dots. But you want to have control so that they're actual dots and not kind of, if you stipple too fast sometimes, you get a shape that's like that. It's not really a dot, it's just kind of like a line. It's kind of messy. So you're going to take your time and fill in all of these birds with your lightest value with your chosen technique, right? So if I chose stippling, I'm going to do all 7 of these birds with the stippling technique. Again, I will pause it. So I finished my first bird. With stippling, something to keep in mind, it's not about how hard you press with your pencil. It's about how many dots are in that area. So the more dots, the darker it's going to appear. Same goes for hatching and cross hatching. When you're talking about modeling or blended shading as well as scumbling, that has to do with the amount of pressure that you apply when you're using your pencil. So let's say I did all of my birds, right? It's going to be a little time consuming, but all of my birds are going to be stippled to my lightest value. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bird and I'm going to trace it 3 to 5 times, and I'm going to overlap it, I guess underlap it, behind the birds that I've already drawn. So I'll do one example and then I'll pause it and come back to you. So there's my one bird. Oops, did I forget the little, I did. Forgot his wings over here. So there's my one bird overlapped, underlapped. And if I'm gonna do 3 to 5 of those, and then I'll come back. So now I have my 5 birds traced. I'm gonna go into those 5 birds with a different shading technique, and it's going to be a darker value. So I did my stippling here. I'm going to go hatching, but I'm going to do it darker than what I have. So hatching is made up of parallel lines. The closer they are together, the darker the value is going to look. And again, I erased a lot of the outline of the bird so that we don't really see it. We don't want to see it, right? It's not going to be coloring book style where we see the outlines. We're just going to see the value that you've created with your shading technique. So there's one bird for hatching. I'm going to do this one hatching as well. I'm going to do it in a different direction just because I turned my paper, and that's okay. But again, we're hatching. All right, I'm going to continue this. I'm going to stop the video. This will be part 1, and then I'll record a part 2 after I finish my stippling and my hatching.